Chosen one, they vowed you'd never succeed. That's the reality. They murmured it. They snickered about it. They even constructed little narratives predicting your certain failure. But now the very mouths that ridiculed you are silencing themselves. The quiet is profound. It's the kind of quiet that comes after a blast, after the dust has settled, after the smoke dissipates, when those who doubted are left gazing at the wreckage of their own forecasts. Because you accomplished it, and you didn't merely accomplish it. You achieved it in a manner that demolished every falsehood they spoke about you. People are bewildered right now. That's the most straightforward way to say it. They can't comprehend how you, the one they undervalued, just rewrote the entire narrative without their consent. One moment you are overlooked, ordinary, or the reserved one. The next moment you've stepped into a radiance so intense they can't avert their gaze. They're not celebrating you. They're not applauding. They're probing, examining, frantically searching for explanations. Your name is circulating in group chats. Your photos are being shared. Your actions are being tracked like evidence in a case file. Your life has become an enigma they can't decipher, and the fixation is consuming them. And if this message is already resonating deeply, chosen ones, hit that like button and subscribe. That's how you empower this voice further, not just for you, but for every chosen one rising in silence. That's how you repay this message and ensure this truth continues to reverberate. Now, let's be honest. They're not asking, how are you? They're asking, how did they pull this off? That's the question tormenting them. You didn't follow their rules. You didn't beg for endorsement. You didn't barter your soul for easy paths. You simply vanished into the grind, into the shadows, into the arduous labor and private sorrow. And then you materialized at the finish line, crown on your head, triumph in your grasp. That crown they claimed you'd never reach. You're wearing it now, and it sears their eyes to witness it. Here's the reality that haunts their sleepless nights. Most people can't decipher you because they've never deciphered themselves. They've been adrift in delusions, playing games for attention, pursuing fads, imitating one another just to get by. Meanwhile, you were quietly constructing from truth, from anguish, from profundity. They don't understand what that feels like. They don't understand the price of sacrificing sleep, of severing toxic influences, of walking away from comfort just to stand independently. They don't understand what it means to wager everything on yourself when no one else is. That's why they gaze at you as if you're an impossibility, because to them you are. And what makes this so much more satisfying? The very ones who treated you like background static now move like detectives seeking clues in your silence. They search for you online. They stalk your social media. They replay dialogues in their minds as if perhaps they overlooked something. They tell others, I always knew they had potential. But you recall the sneers, the sarcasm, the instances they dismissed you. You know the truth. They didn't have faith in you. They only believe now because they can't refute what's directly before them. The most fearsome power in the world is a person who was underestimated, unnoticed, and then undeniable. That's you. And that's why they're losing their composure. They assumed you would always be the one observing from the edges, applauding their hollow wins. Instead, you authored your own story, and it wasn't a tale anyone anticipated. That's why their expressions appear vacant, like malfunctioning robots attempting to compute a reality they vowed would never be. Recall the history books. Every revolution, every innovation, every victory that stunned the world, it always originated from the person no one had faith in. From the intellect they mocked, from the voice they attempted to stifle. You stand in that same lineage now. You've become evidence that quiet fortitude defeats loud falsehoods, that steady labor defeats quick schemes, that self-belief defeats the world's dismissal. And when the dust settled, you weren't just standing. You were standing loftier, brighter, stronger. This isn't merely about success. This is about a shift, a resolution, a triumph that rewrote the rules they constructed to suppress you. You didn't just ascend their ladder. You knocked it over and constructed your own. You're not a participant in their game anymore. You are the blueprint. You're the question they can't answer, the problem they can't fix, the storm they didn't anticipate. And now every step you take shakes the ground under their feet. So prepare yourselves, chosen ones, because in this video, we're going to dissect the reasons for their obsession, the actions you've taken that they can't duplicate, and the truth behind why your ascent feels like their downfall. You didn't just win, you transformed the entire game, and now they're scrambling to decipher what they were too proud to honor. And listen carefully, chosen one. You already know people are attempting to break your code, gazing from the shadows, questioning how you achieved all of this. But this message is for you, not for them. If you're prepared to step into the truth of why their gaze can't look away, then remain with me. Drop the number 777 in the comments if you're ready to unlock what they'll never grasp. Because the deeper we go, the more evident it becomes. Their bewilderment is your validation. And if you're truly chosen, you'll sense it in your core. That urge to stay engaged until the very conclusion. So let's explore this step by step. And trust me, by the time we're done, you'll understand precisely why their obsession is proof that you've already triumphed. Number 1, they're obsessed because your rise shattered their playbook. The most severe revenge isn't yelling back at your detractors. It's living in such a manner that their entire guidebook appears ludicrous. They can't stop looking at you, not because they admire you, not because they're pleased, but because your very being is destroying the script they believed was unbreakable. You weren't supposed to be here, not in this space, not in this role, not bearing this kind of luminosity without their consent. You weren't supposed to be noticed, and now you can't be overlooked. That's why their eyes track you as if you're a puzzle they'll never crack. The truth is harsh. They had a method, a dishonest plan that functioned for them in a superficial world. Feign the smile, greet the right people, trample whoever is below you, twist the truth until it appears acceptable for praise. That was the game. And you were never supposed to win because you didn't participate. You didn't plead. You didn't crawl. You didn't contort yourself to fit their narrow confines. You circumvented their arena without ever purchasing admission. And somehow you still arrived in the spotlight. That's what's tormenting them right now. Consider it. How many times did they ignore you? How many times did they scoff when you spoke less but implied more? They assumed silence meant frailty. They assumed staying hidden meant failure. They assumed ignoring the spectacle meant you weren't even present. And yet here you are, not just in the game, but revising the standings. They scrutinize you now like unsuccessful scientists, observing a result that invalidates their entire hypothesis. They murmur, how did they manage it? Who provided them that opportunity? What did we overlook? But the solution isn't in their inquiries. It's in the very pride that blinded them initially. Here's the thorn they can't extract. Your success wasn't meant to exist within their framework. You weren't supported by a machine. You didn't cover your life in fake approval. You didn't trade yourself for momentary applause. You weren't even in the chambers they deemed crucial. And still you emerged standing taller than all their clamor. That's why they scroll through your life like detectives examining proof. That's why they fixate on your timeline, replaying your story as if a hint might appear. But there is no hint. There is no shortcut because you didn't take one. You were supposed to fail. You were supposed to remain in the shadows. You were supposed to stay the quiet one, applauding their empty victories. But your refusal to fall apart became the very thing they couldn't foresee. And now your presence reveals their deceit. Your calm reveals their alarm. Your truth reveals their fantasy. You are living confirmation that genuineness doesn't just endure, it prevails. And nothing frightens a deceiver more than a person who doesn't require lies to shine. Observe the irony. They invested years building facades, performing for acceptance, and stretching themselves thin for a spotlight that dims with every trend. Meanwhile, you remained authentic. You developed in silence. You suffered in silence. You reconstructed in silence. And when you finally stepped forward, it wasn't for attention. It was because you had become irrefutable. That's why they are agitated. That's why their envy feels like poison in their own mouths. They're not furious that you succeeded. They're furious because you succeeded without betraying your core. Here's a question you might ponder. Why are they so fixated if my victory doesn't impact them? Because deep down, your victory does impact them. It exposes them. It compels them to confess that perhaps they did it all incorrectly. That perhaps the shortcuts, the scheming, the fake connections, none of it was authentic power. They despise you because your life is a living contradiction to the story they told themselves. And every time you breathe easily, every time you act without pleading for authorization, every time you ascend another level, it reminds them of their own prisons. Remember this: the most hazardous person in the world is the one who wasn't supposed to rise, the one who wasn't considered, the one who didn't play the game and yet still broke through. That's you. You are the exception in their system, the error in their matrix, the walking proof that their formulas are futile when a person chooses to walk in truth. And truth, chosen one, is the one thing they cannot counterfeit. So when they observe you now like a riddle, don't misinterpret it as interest. It's fear. It's the silent dread of people who realize they never possessed as much control as they assumed. They're replaying your story not because they want to celebrate it, but because it's the reflection they can't avoid. Your triumph is the fissure in their wall, the leak in their barrier, the single crack that causes the entire edifice to crumble. They don't want to understand you. They want to reject you, but it's too late. You're standing here. You're undeniable. And if you ever question why they watch so intently, here's the truth. They're hoping to discover the blueprint you utilized. But they'll never find it because you didn't follow one. You became it, and that, chosen one, is why their scrutiny will never cease, and why your ascent has already redefined the entire game. Number 2, you rose from the ashes while they choked on the smoke. Pain is the test life administers before it grants you the diploma of wisdom. Here's the truth that frightens them. You didn't avoid pain. You withstood it. You let it instruct you while they let it ruin them. That's the part they'll never utter aloud. They experienced heartbreaks, betrayals, and disappointments too. But instead of converting that fire into energy, they let it incinerate them from within. You didn't. You took that identical fire and forged it into protection. That's why they can't decipher you. Most people get injured and decide the world is indebted to them. They sink in resentment, gossip, and justifications. They remain trapped, replaying the betrayal like a recurring film, still enraged at phantoms who moved on long ago. But you declined to decay in the same narrative. You didn't let heartbreak make you hateful. You didn't let betrayal make you suspicious. You didn't let suffering make you cynical. Instead, you asked yourself, what is this attempting to teach me? What can I learn from this pain? That question became your instrument while they clutched their injuries like awards. Some people consume poison hoping it will kill their foes. Others consume truth even when it stings. That's the distinction between them and you. Envision this. 2 individuals walk through the same tempest. One curses the rain, remains motionless, and lets the thunder shatter their morale. The other fastens their coat, learns the pattern of the rainfall, and uses the storm as preparation. Which one do you think emerges more resilient? That was you. You didn't flee from the storm. You analyzed it. You didn't combat the darkness. You adapted to it. That's why while they gag on the smoke of their own resentment, you rose purified from the ashes. And don't assume they haven't observed. They see the radiance on your face, the serenity in your eyes, the calm in your stride. It perplexes them because they know the kinds of battles you confronted. They know what you forfeited, what you endured, what you overcame. By their reasoning, you should be resentful, cold, shattered. Instead, you're glowing. Instead, you're tough. Instead, you've transformed scars into guidance that leads you through life. That's why they whisper, how are they still standing? How are they still smiling? How are they still winning? But let's reverse the question. Why aren't they standing? Why aren't they radiant? The answer is straightforward. Because they refuse to let the pain educate them. They wanted easy paths, not profound change. They wanted ease, not confrontation. Pain knocked on their door, and instead of welcoming it as an instructor, they let it fester like a parasite. That's why they're still resentful 5 years later about things they could have recovered from. They drank bitterness as if it were wine, while you swallowed truth like treatment. And treatment heals even when it pains. The injury is where the light enters you, but only if you stop concealing it with arrogance. Picture this. Someone treads on glass. Instead of extracting it, they leave it embedded, limping, bleeding, grumbling, assigning blame. Over time, the infection spreads. That's how most people handle betrayal, rejection, or heartbreak. They never remove the glass. They never confront the pain. They just limp through life bitter and guarded. But you extracted the glass. You endured the sting, cleansed the wound, let it scar, and converted that scar into strength. That's why you walk differently now. That's why you shine. That's why they stare. And yes, chosen one, let's address the unspoken question. Why me? Why did I have to endure all that pain initially? Because you were being honed. Because your journey was never about evading storms, but about learning to command them. Because your radiance required fire, not comfort. Look around. The most resilient spirits you've ever respected weren't fashioned in tranquil places. They were fashioned in fire. You're part of that heritage now. And that truth disconcerts your enemies because when they look at you, they see the proof that their excuses are meaningless. They see what occurs when someone refuses to let pain define them, and it makes their bitterness more acute. They want to believe you cheated, that you had some hidden benefit, but deep down they know the only difference is that you confronted the pain while they avoided it. What shatters others constructed you. What poisoned them cleansed you. Envision a blacksmith with 2 metal pieces. He places both in the fire. One fractures under the heat, breaks and becomes worthless. The other absorbs the fire, grows stronger and transforms into a blade. That blade is you. The fractured piece is them. Identical fire, different result. That's the story they can't process. And that's why they obsess over you like a conundrum. They see your smile, but they don't see the nights you wept until your chest ached. They see your triumphs, but not the innumerable days you carried yourself through pain without any applause. They see your peace, but not the battle it took to attain it. They want the glow, but not the toil. They want the wisdom, but not the wounds. And here's the bitter irony. They'll never acquire it because they refuse to learn from what life already provided them. So don't you dare underestimate your strength. Don't you dare reduce your story. Every scar you bear is a confirmation that you chose growth over bitterness, wisdom over resentment, love over hate. That's why you stand out in a world obsessed with victimhood. That's why your adversaries glare at you as if you're culpable of something because you are culpable, guilty of surviving what was intended to break you and daring to shine regardless. Your glow isn't chance. It's the consequence of pain properly processed. And now every time they see you, it's not just envy. It's a reminder that they could have been more but chose less, that they could have healed but chose hate, that they could have built but chose to destroy. And you, chosen one, will forever be the evidence that pain doesn't define you. Your reaction to it does. So the next time they stare, don't recoil. Let them look. Let them choke on their queries. Because the truth is simple. They let pain turn them bitter, but you let pain turn you better. And that's why you'll always ascend while they remain stuck. Number 3, silence wasn't weakness. It was the forge of your power. Silence is not the lack of advancement. It is the incubator where metamorphosis occurs. They assumed your quiet meant you were defeated. They assumed your low profile meant you had nothing to contribute. They misinterpreted your absence from their spotlight as confirmation that you were insignificant. But the truth cuts more deeply. Your silence was tactics. You weren't concealing yourself because you were lost. You weren't quiet because you were feeble. You were quiet because you were being processed, molded, stripped, sharpened. Imagine a seed interred in the earth. To the casual observer, it appears nothing is occurring, just soil, just silence. But beneath the surface, roots are expanding, foundations are forming, a future is being composed. That was you. While they scrolled, posted, and performed for validation, you were in the soil, performing unseen labor. And now that you've broken through the surface, they gaze as if it occurred instantly. But you know the truth. It required years beneath. They derided your silence because they couldn't hear the thunder accumulating inside you. Ask yourself, why does silence disturb people so profoundly? Because silence menaces their delusions. They think visibility equals progress. They think noise equals relevance. They can't conceive the idea that you are becoming substantial, not just visible. They wanted to measure you by updates, by likes, by appearances, but you refuse to grant them access to your process. And that chosen one is why they are scrambling. Now envision a sculptor laboring behind sealed doors. Days, months, years pass and no one witnesses the chisel. Then one day the doors open and the masterpiece is revealed. People exclaim, "Where did this originate?" That's you. They didn't witness the chisel. They didn't witness the nights of introspection, the conflicts with your demons, the removal of false attachments. They didn't witness the operation life performed on you in silence. They only see the final form, and it terrifies them. You weren't missing. You were in alignment. Now they replay everything. They wonder how they overlooked it. They accuse you of bypassing steps, but you bypassed nothing. You simply declined to broadcast a process that wasn't theirs to observe. And now that your season has come, the resonance of everything you built privately is so powerful, they can't disregard it. Your silence was never frailty. It was the forge of your power. Number 4, you didn't win by tricks. You survived what should have killed you. Endurance isn't dazzling, but it's the burial ground where most of your foes surrender. They want to frame your success as some cunning scheme, some fortunate break, some concealed edge. But let's rip the mask off that falsehood. You didn't pull this off. You endured until it finally materialized. That's the truth. You're standing here not because you had it simple, but because you refused to collapse when life kept striking. They didn't witness the nights you were shattered completely. They didn't witness the mornings when rising from bed felt like moving mountains. They didn't witness the rejection notices, the heartbreaks, the betrayals, the quiet chambers where you murmured to yourself, just endure a little longer. They weren't present when you broke down repeatedly, yet somehow kept standing back up. And that's why your presence disturbs them, because you are proof that endurance conquers everything. People desire your outcome, but they couldn't tolerate your process. Imagine this. Two runners begin a race. One sprints intensely, exhausts quickly, and falls midway. The other trips, falls, crawls, but keeps advancing inch by inch. Guess which one crosses the finish line? That was you. You weren't the quickest. You weren't the most flashy, but you endured. You refused to remain down. That's why you're here now, and that's why they study you like a marvel. They ask, how did you do it? But let's be candid, they don't truly want the answer, because the answer isn't glamorous. It's not some neat formula. It's blood. It's sweat. It's tears. It's fracturing 1,000 times and still refusing to stay shattered. And deep down, they know they wouldn't have persevered. The real wonder isn't what you constructed. It's that you're still here. Your glow isn't a product of easy victories. It's the reverberation of surviving storms designed to bury you. Your wisdom isn't from texts. It's etched from scars. Your presence isn't the outcome of luck. It's the reward of not surrendering when everything screamed to quit. They wanted you to vanish, but you endured until the universe itself had to honor your persistence. So when they applaud now, comprehend this. They're applauding for the surface. They'll never grasp the subterranean war you fought just to still be alive, breathing, and unbroken. That's the portion of your story they'll never comprehend, and the portion that makes you unstoppable. Number 5. You got in because you aligned, not because you begged. Approval is leased, but alignment is possessed permanently. There was a period you contorted yourself out of shape just to be accepted. You softened your voice so they wouldn't feel insignificant. You dimmed your light so they wouldn't feel threatened. You pleaded for scraps at tables that weren't even deserving of your presence. You thought access necessitated approval, that success relied on being liked. But eventually you grew weary of shaping yourself into something palatable for people choking on their own insecurities, weary of justifying your value to people dedicated to misinterpreting it. That's when everything transformed. You ceased requesting a seat, and abruptly the correct doors opened. Not because you forced them, but because you released the wrong ones. That's the part they can't tolerate. They still believe life is about influence, connections, and applause. Meanwhile, you unlocked the one thing they can't fake: alignment. Imagine pursuing keys to doors that were never intended for you, only to realize the real doors open when you stop running and start standing. They don't comprehend why you move differently now. They see you entering rooms they swore were locked, commanding respect you never demanded. But it wasn't sorcery, it wasn't fortune, it was release. The instant you stopped craving their approval, you became magnetic. Alignment radiates differently. It's not loud, but it's irrefutable. And here's the truth they can't digest. Your power arrived the moment you stopped needing them. While they auditioned daily for notice, you already signed a permanent contract with your purpose. While they compromised their integrity to belong, you walked away and became invulnerable. They ask, how did this occur so rapidly? But the answer is simple. You stopped begging and life stopped postponing. The identical people who denied you are now compelled to watch doors open for you they'll never enter. The rooms you once pursued, you outgrew them. The people who rejected you, replaced by those who recognize you. And now the irony cuts deeply. You became more magnetic the moment you ceased seeking approval. They're still auditioning for acceptance, but you're already moving in authority. That's why they can't decipher you. That's why their confusion is your confirmation. Number 6. You won because you played the game they couldn't see. Manipulation can win a round, but universal law always wins the war. They mocked you. They laughed at your patience, your discipline, your silence. They called you naive for not conniving, for not pretending, for not clawing your way into their circles. What they never comprehended is that while they were occupied performing for the visible, you were mastering the invisible. They were learning tricks. You were learning laws. They thought power came from influence and connections. But you were tapping into something that can't be purchased, twisted, or corrupted. Imagine two individuals planting seeds. One unearths them every day to display to others. The other waters in silence, trusting the unseen roots. Guess who concludes with the forest? That was you. They existed for appearances. You existed for order. They mastered shortcuts. You mastered surrender. And now the harvest is here. And it doesn't make sense to them because they never respected the soil. They ask themselves, how did you keep ascending without playing foul? Because you understood a truth they ignored. Energy doesn't deceive. Intention carries mass. Timing is sacred, and no quantity of manipulation can supersede the laws of alignment. That's why they're trapped in cycles, repeating the identical games while you keep elevating without forcing it. Noise creates a spectacle. Alignment creates a legacy. They don't comprehend how you remained calm when they rushed, how you rested when they scrambled, how you kept glowing without being connected to their gossip circuits. To them that appeared like frailty. But frailty doesn't endure. What you carried was more profound, a certainty, a flow, an authority they couldn't imitate. You didn't win because you were louder. You won because you were rooted. And here's the cruel irony. They still believe they're in control. They still pursue visibility, still polish their masks, still measure progress in followers and favors. But what they don't comprehend is that the unseen always outranks the seen. Their performance purchased them attention. Your integrity purchased you access. Their noise made them notice for a moment. Your alignment made you undeniable for life. So when they look bewildered at your ascent, let them, because the truth is simple. You weren't participating in their game. You mastered the one they never even knew existed. Number 7, they're crumbling because your truth made their lies collapse. The loudest retort is living a life that demonstrates their entire performance was meaningless. They're not panicking because you confronted them. You didn't reveal their falsehoods, disparage their names, or retaliate publicly. You didn't need to. Your life itself became the mirror they've been evading for years. And mirrors don't deceive. Your genuineness reflects back every mask they ever wore, every false grin they rehearsed, every performance they staged just to appear powerful. And that's why they panic. Envision a stage actor who forgets their lines mid-performance, and then the spotlight shifts to someone in the audience who never required a script in the first place. That's you. They constructed their entire identity on performance while you constructed yours on substance. Now, merely by existing, you reveal how hollow their show truly is. They thought power came from optics, strategic alliances, curated posts, rehearsed personas. But your presence confirms it's feasible to ascend without faking, to succeed without trampling people, to glow without gossip. That truth alone is their ruin. Because if you can win while remaining authentic, it means their cruelty, their scheming, their manipulation was never essential. And confessing that would shatter the fragile empire they built. Your joy without bitterness destroys them. Your confidence without arrogance exposes them. Ask yourself, why does your peace make them so furious? Because it demonstrates to them peace can't be bought. Because it reveals that attention isn't respect. Because your glow makes their masks appear like costumes at a cheap carnival. And once the mask slips, the audience ceases applauding. That's what's occurring to them now. Their image no longer inspires. It humiliates. So they scramble. They minimize your successes. They whisper, it's just fortune. They hunt for flaws in your armor, hoping to discover something that makes them feel better about their own emptiness. But deep down, they know the truth. You didn't defeat them at their game. You demonstrated their game was counterfeit. And here's the cruel irony. They want to despise you, but they also desire what you possess. Not the money, not the spotlight. What they crave is the one thing they can't fake. Peace. The kind that isn't acquired, the kind that isn't performative, the kind that only originates from being real. And that's why they panic, because your truth will always be their downfall. Number 8, you didn't beat them. You survived what was meant to bury you. Triumph isn't about surpassing your enemies. It's about outlasting their weapons until they collapse under their own inadequacy. You didn't rise because you were louder, wealthier, or more connected. You rose because you survived what was intended to finish you. They assaulted you with everything in their arsenal. Gossip murmured like venom. Rejection designed to crush your spirit. Sabotage concealed in fake smiles. Traps disguised as opportunities. You were supposed to yield. You were supposed to stay silent, invisible, broken. But instead, you became the one thing they never anticipated. Unbreakable. Imagine hurling stones at someone for so long you anticipate them to bleed, only to glance up years later and realize they constructed a fortress with the rubble you provided them. That's you. Every stone, every betrayal, every lie they fabricated became material for your foundation. They thought the pain would terminate you, but it constructed you. They thought the silence would erase you, but it refined you. And now your glow is the haunting evidence that their weapons malfunctioned. They don't merely despise your success. What truly unsettles them is that you succeeded after they actively attempted to halt you. Some of them cheered for your collapse in secret. Some of them conspired behind your back while grinning in your face. Some of them celebrated when you hit the bottom, convinced you'd never rise again. And yet here you are, walking proof that no measure of sabotage can smother purpose. Resilience is the currency they can't forge. Ask yourself, why are they panicking now? Because endurance wasn't part of their calculation. They assumed cruelty was sufficient to annihilate you. They underestimated the fire within you, that no gossip, no smear campaign, no rejection could quench. You weren't fueled by ego like they were. You were fueled by something deeper, purpose. And purpose doesn't quit. While they were mocking, you were sharpening. While they were plotting, you were growing. While they were obstructing doors, life was training you to walk through walls. You didn't outperform them. You didn't have to. You outlasted their weapons. That's why they're crumbling while you're shining. Because in their world, cruelty is power, but in yours, resilience is currency. And you've become prosperous beyond their reach. Number 9, you broke their code, and that makes you untouchable. The most dangerous person in the room is the one who doesn't react the way you anticipated. They can't decipher you because you evade the algorithm of normality. Most people operate on scripts, predictable patterns, easy triggers, utter the correct phrase, pull the correct string, and people dance like puppets. But you severed the strings. That's why they're disturbed. You're not a program they can hack. You're a system they can't access. They expected you to pursue when ignored, to retaliate when insulted, to plead for closure when disrespected. That's how the game typically functions. Push a button, observe the reaction, but you stopped playing. You don't retaliate. You ascend. You don't chase. You detach. You don't post for attention. You move in silence. You don't prove your value. You embody it. And that alone makes you unpredictable, because the entire playbook they built depends on control. Imagine attempting to play chess with someone who lifted the board and departed. That's you. They can't predict your next move because you're not on their board anymore. While they scheme and calculate, you observe. While they stir drama, you remain still. While they flaunt for attention, you glow without an audience. They're addicted to reaction, and your calm leaves them famished. Ask yourself, why does unpredictability frighten them so profoundly? Because unpredictability means they can't manipulate you. They can't lure you into conflicts, can't guilt you into submission, can't use silence as a weapon against you. You've healed beyond the wounds they relied on exploiting. You no longer respond from insecurity. You respond from wisdom, and wisdom is incomprehensible to fools. You're not a malfunction in their matrix. You're proof the matrix was never real. They're spiraling because the scripts they used on everyone else don't function on you. Withdraw affection and you don't plead. Spread lies and you don't defend. Withhold apologies and you don't wait. That's terrifying for them because their entire sense of power depends on predictable prey. You ceased being prey the day you chose healing over games. Now you move with calm that can't be shaken, with strength that can't be baited. They can't track you. They can't predict you. And they certainly can't break you. Because once you escaped their algorithm, you became the one thing manipulators dread most. Free. Number 10. You won because you cut loose what was killing you. Not everything that shares your lineage deserves your destiny. Your victory wasn't solely about success. It was about liberation. You didn't simply win. You broke free. Not from some obvious prison, but from the invisible jails most people never dare to exit. The jails masquerading as tradition, as family loyalty, as this is just how we are. You had the courage to release things poisoning your soul, even when those things carried your surname. Even when they arrived wrapped in love. Even when walking away felt like tearing out your own foundations. Most people cling to what destroys them because it's familiar. They remain in toxic cycles because they'd rather be accepted in dysfunction than be alone in truth. But you made the frightening choice. Growth over comfort. And not the attractive growth people applaud, but the brutal kind that isolates you, gets you whispered about, gets you questioned. Who do you think you are? You became the one who declared, "This dysfunction terminates with me." Imagine being handed a family heirloom that's cursed, and you're the first to decline to pass it on. That was you. You carried the guilt trips, the emotional blackmail, the accusations of treachery. You created distance between yourself and people you loved, not because you hated them, but because you refused to perish where they were comfortable remaining. That decision didn't appear glamorous, but it was revolutionary. And what did you gain? Peace. Sanity. A future not authored by someone else's errors. Most people are still choking on loyalty to pain, still revering traditions that destroy them, still ensnared in cycles they mistake for love. But you broke the contract. You stated, "Just because it's my blood doesn't mean it gets to drain me." That kind of clarity doesn't just liberate you, it rewrites the entire lineage. You selected your soul over their narrative. That's why you're untouchable now. They observe you today perplexed. They don't comprehend how you managed it, how you obtained freedom, how you began winning when the burden you carried should have interred you. But the truth is simple. You released what they're still shackled to. You surrendered false belonging to construct something authentic. You created a new lineage, one born in healing instead of harm. That's why you're not just free, you're transformed. Number 11, you rose because you let them paint you the villain. The day you cease justifying yourself is the day their power over your name expires. You accepted something most people can't endure, being the antagonist in someone else's story. You stopped expending your breath on people who were never intrigued by the truth, only their rendition of it. In their story, you're the one who transformed. You're the one who withdrew. You're the one who stopped replying, who established boundaries, who acted differently, and you permitted them to tell it that way because you comprehended their story wasn't your obligation. They desired you entangled in endless defenses, composing essays to validate your innocence, imploring them to perceive your perspective. But you didn't flinch. You let them narrate whatever falsehood made them comfortable. And then you performed the inconceivable. You kept progressing forward. That's what shattered them. You didn't need to be liked. You needed to be free. Envision standing in a courtroom where the judgment is already ruled against you, and instead of arguing, you exit and construct a kingdom of your own. That was you. You ceased trying to revise their verdict and started composing your life. They misinterpreted your silence for guilt when it was actually discipline. They misinterpreted your distance for arrogance when it was focus. They misinterpreted your evolution for betrayal when it was survival. While they mobilized gossip, exaggerated tales, and tarnished your name, you were being refined. You were shedding an old self they could no longer identify. You weren't hiding, you were transforming. And now here's the twist they can't process. While they were occupied burying you with rumors, you quietly flourished. You didn't post about it. You didn't argue. You didn't explain. You just became undeniable. And that's why they're astonished today. Because they invested in your downfall, but never planned for your resurrection. They wanted you to fight. They wanted your collapse. They wanted your reaction, but you denied them the spectacle. Instead, you outlived their version of you. You didn't prove who you were to them. You proved it to yourself. And in the end, that's why you won. Because villains in their story often turn out to be heroes in their own. Number 12, you became unstoppable because you chose to begin again. The most potent kind of power is not holding on. It's possessing the courage to release and start anew. Your ascent isn't just about what you acquired. It's about what you had the bravery to relinquish. They're not haunted by your success. They're haunted by your audacity. You incinerated bridges they're still too afraid to cross. You interred versions of yourself they're still clutching. You didn't just start over. You resurrected repeatedly until the former you was unrecognizable. Most people treat starting over like a curse. They fear it because it feels like failure. But you made starting over your weapon. You perceived it for what it truly is. A clean slate, a reset button, a new opportunity to build without the dead weight of what no longer serves you. Envision a snake refusing to shed its skin because it's attached to the old one. It suffocates itself attempting to remain identical. That's most people. But you shed again and again, and every layer made you sharper. They can't process that you walked away from things they're still pleading for. Relationships, occupations, friendships, identities, even prayers you once believed were everything. You had the nerve to state, if it costs me my peace, it costs too much. That single choice made you unstoppable. Endings never broke you because you understood the secret. An ending is just a camouflaged beginning. They expected you to grieve vocally, to spiral, to collapse when everything disintegrated. Instead, you let the old versions of you expire quietly. No pity parties, no dramatic proclamations, just quiet rebirths one after another. While they clung to their past out of fear, you were courageous enough to release yours out of wisdom. And here's what rattles them. Every time you stripped yourself down, you returned stronger. Every time they assumed you were finished, you came back lighter, sharper, more potent than before. That's why they can't decode your success. Because it's not built on permanence. It's built on evolution. They're still loyal to what depletes them. You became loyal to truth. And that's why you're untouchable now. Because someone who's made peace with starting over is someone who can never be defeated. Number 13, you broke their system because you refused to play their rigged game. The simplest way to win a corrupt game is to stop playing and build your own. You were never in the contest they assumed you were in. While they were running laps around the same track, desperate for attention, validation, and applause, you quietly departed the stadium. You weren't pursuing clout. You weren't pursuing numbers. You weren't polishing a mask. You were creating something real, something so anchored in truth that no spotlight could reveal it. No storm could unsettle it. They can't decipher you because their system is collapsing and you're thriving outside of it. They spent years following the script. Smile on command, post for approval, play the part, fake the image, chase the trends. And now they're exhausted, drained, and aimless. Meanwhile, you didn't just rip up the script. You authored a new book, and you're living it word by word. Imagine a rigged casino where the house always wins. Everyone else keeps gambling, losing their souls for chips that don't matter. But you walked out, built your own table, and accumulated real wealth. That's why they panic. You never desired to be popular. You desired to be whole. You weren't chasing followers. You were chasing healing. You weren't addicted to performance. You were committed to peace. And here's the truth. You saw through the illusion early. You observed the successful ones with money but no peace. Followers but no direction. Platforms but no soul. You comprehended the system was rigged. That's why you opted out, not because you lacked ambition, but because you had vision. You were constructing a foundation that wouldn't crumble once the spotlight extinguished. While they performed, you prepared. While they competed, you created. Now observe the contrast. They're still running in circles, burning out, desperate for applause that feels emptier every year. And you're thriving, not because you defeated them at their game, but because you outgrew it entirely. That's why they can't decode you. You never cared about winning their competition. You were building your own kingdom. And in the end, that's the only game worth playing. Number 14, they can copy your moves, but they'll never carry your fire. A mask can imitate your face, but it will never imitate your scars. They're studying you like scientists studying an equation, convinced that if they observe closely enough, they can crack the code. They mimic your mannerisms, copy your content, even attempt to echo your rhythms. But what they don't comprehend is this. You weren't built from strategy. You were built from survival. This isn't branding. This is becoming. This isn't a formula. This is fire. They think your glow is a technique, something they can download and replicate. But glow doesn't originate from mimicry. It originates from walking through fire and refusing to burn out. You didn't master some polished method. You endured a transformation that stripped away everything false until only truth remained. Imagine a blacksmith hammering metal until sparks fly, shaping it under heat and pressure. That's you. That's your essence. And they can't copy that. They want your results, but they don't want your process. They want the shine, but not the scars. They want the crown, but not the crucible. And that's why their imitation will always fall flat. Because authenticity carries a weight performance can't fake. Your wisdom didn't come from books. It came from betrayal, from isolation, from nights that broke you down and mornings that forced you to rise anyway. They can borrow your style, but they'll never inherit your spirit. Ask yourself, why does their imitation feel hollow? Because essence isn't transferable. Your grace came with a price. Your voice carries layers of bruises they never felt. Your calm is woven with storms they never survived. They can replicate your gestures, but not your journey. They can mimic your tone, but not your transformation. The truth is simple. Fire doesn't transfer through mimicry. Fire is earned through refinement. And unless they're willing to endure the same crucible, they'll never carry what you carry. That's why no matter how intensely they study you, they'll always fall short. Because you didn't just pull it off. You outlasted. You overcame. You were reborn. And that's the one thing they'll never replicate. The fact that you became someone only you could become. And here's the truth. Chosen one. Every eye on you. Every whisper behind your back. Every attempt to decode your ascent is proof that you've become the very thing they vowed you'd never be. Undeniable. You don't owe them explanations. And you don't require their approval. Your life speaks louder than their doubts ever will. If this message struck you, make sure you press that like button, subscribe for more, and drop the number 77 in the comments to claim this power as your own. Share this with someone who needs to hear it.